ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Opposition coalition in Côte d'Ivoire denounced Cham's removal from the electoral list.
Après avoir exclu par des artifices juridiques.
After having excluded President Laurent Gbagbo, Cyril Kibafori Guillem and Minister Charles Blegude from the electoral list by legal artifices, the regime in power is once again instrumentalizing the justice system.
The Constitutional Council in Senegal rejects the interpretive amnesty law. Benin's government clarified their toll from its deadliest terrorist attack at 56 soldiers killed.
Every child in Benin who dies means all the families in Benin mourn.
In Liberia, majority bloc rejects the Supreme Court ruling to hold Speaker Fanati Kofa's authority. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
My name is Ankule Janko and thank you for joining this bulletin. Let's begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where the PDCI supporters have hit the streets of Abidjan and other parts of the country in a peaceful march to oppose the removal of its chosen presidential candidate, financier Tidjane Cham, from the electoral list by the Abidjan Court of First Instance. However, the government is not in support of this protest, warning that disorder will not be tolerated. Meanwhile, the CAP Côte d'Ivoire, a coalition that brings together several opposition political parties, including the PDCI, also denounces the removal of Tidjane Cham from the provisional list. The Coalition for a Peaceful Alternation in Côte d'Ivoire argues that it is a strategy to remove a serious political opponent. Therefore, opponents are calling on the government for the opted time to set up a framework for dialogue in order to guarantee an inclusive, transparent, and peaceful elections. Here is an excerpt from the statement of Simone Bagbo, former First Lady of Côte d'Ivoire and spokesperson for the CAP Côte d'Ivoire.
Après avoir exclu par des artifices juridiques de la liste électorale.
After having excluded President Laurent Gbagbo, Cyril Kibafori Guillem and Minister Charles Blegude from the electoral list by legal artifices, the regime in power is once again instrumentalizing the justice system to block the candidates of President Tidjane Cham from the provisional list and the de facto electoral process. CAP Côte d'Ivoire denounces its authoritarian excesses, the ultimate goal of which is to eliminate candidates capable of defeating the candidates of power, wherever they may be. All this undermines cohesion and peace in our country. CAP Côte d'Ivoire demands that President Tidjane Cham remain on the electoral list unconditionally and without delay. The urgent opening of a political dialogue with all stakeholders in the elections, the establishment of a peaceful climate that can promote credible, transparent, fair elections and without violence of any kind. CAP Côte d'Ivoire appeals to the nation's vital forces and prays for peace to mobilize in order to preserve democratic gains.
De se mobiliser en vue de préserver les acquis démocratiques.
Former Ivorian First Lady Simone Bagbo and the spokesperson of CAP Côte d'Ivoire. In 2 days, Togo will celebrate its 65th independence anniversary. The Togolese government is planning several events to mark the occasion. However, the opposition for its part is organizing a public rally in Lomé to reject the Fifth Republic. Let's join Francis Boniface for more.
This rally, scheduled for Independence Day, will be the second by the opposition to denounce the regime change after the one on March 23rd. The demonstration was called by several political parties, including the National Alliance for Change, ANC, the Democratic Forces for the Republic, FDR, and the civil society organizations, including the Togo Citizens Front. David Dose is a spokesperson for the Togo Citizens Front.
We
want to organize April 27, 2025 differently. This legendary event falls on the day of Independence Day. Independence marks a people's ability to regain their freedom and dignity. Deprivation can be by the colonizer or at least by the oppressor. In 1958, that's how our ancestors fought. And in 2025, I think we must also consider how we can regain our dignity after the scathing contempt we received in 2024 when a constitution we didn't want was imposed on us.
Before the demonstration, opponents of the regime change plan to hold a Muslim and Christian prayer session, as well as a traditional worship service.
We want to come together as Togolese citizens, regardless of our political, religious, or ethnic affiliation. And to achieve this, we will join the organizers, the ANC, the AFD, and the Renovation International at the beach on Sunday, April 27, starting at 2 p.m. Before that, of course, taking into account the schedule we've been given, there will be Muslim prayers on Friday, Catholic Mass on Saturday, and Protestant worship on Sunday.
The organizers of this rally are meeting within a recently established framework with the aim of returning Togo to the 1992 constitution. The country changed its constitution a few months ago, transitioning from a presidential to a parliamentary system of government.
Sylvie Ouadrago's report, voiced by Francis Boniface. Here in Senegal, the Constitutional Council has rejected the proposed interpretive bill for the amnesty law after a careful revision. It had been adopted during a plenary session at the National Assembly a few weeks ago. Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye was awaiting approval from the Constitutional Council before promulgating the law. Abdullah Hassan has the rest of the details.
For the 7 Constitutional Council judges, the amnesty law's interpretative law is unconstitutional and retroactive. This interpretative law will restrict the scope of application of a previous amnesty law. Senegal's Supreme Court continued that the amnesty law introduced a new rule allowing the prosecution of acts that had already been amnestied. This violates the constitutional principle of non-retroactivity of more severe criminal laws, the 7 judges stated. According to the Constitutional Council, applying the interpretative law of amnesty law amounts to retroactively applying a more severe provision prohibited by the Constitution and the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen of 1789. For the Constitutional Council, the interpretative law violates Senegal's international commitments, notably the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. This decision by the Constitutional Council follows an appeal filed by 24 members of Parliament denouncing a discriminatory law that violates equality before the amnesty. The government and the National Assembly, for their part, defended the purely interpretative nature of the text, seeking to clarify ambiguities in the amnesty law adopted under the immediate past administration of Macky Sall.
Abdullah Hassan with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
A project to create the Alliance of Sahel States ACE radio station ended on Wednesday in Ouagadougou, the Burkinabe capital, where this public service media outlet is to be based. Burkinabe Minister of Community, Gilbert Wadr, revealed that the headquarters of the ACE radio station will be located in Ouagadougou, with relays in Bamako and Niamey. It will broadcast continuously 24 hours a day with a rich and varied programs scheduled, taking into account the national languages of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. According to Minister Wadr, this media will reflect the commitment of the ACE states to promote regional integration. He added that through this radio, the states will address major issues such as access to information, the fight against terrorism, against disinformation, the promotion of local culture, and awareness of vital development issues. The 3 countries have already adopted a common logo and flag after their official exit from ECOWAS on January 29. Benin has confirmed that it suffered the deadliest attack on record since violent extremism emerged in the northern region. According to the presidency, more than 50 people were killed in the assault a week ago against soldiers in 2 towns at the 3 Point, a border area between Benin, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Several wounded soldiers are currently being treated in various hospitals. The government's response comes a week after the tragedy and a statement by an Al-Qaeda affiliate group that it killed 70 Beninese soldiers during the attack. As Augustine Colley reports, Cotonou is promising effective steps to tackle the security threat.
This is one of the rare times the government has officially responded to a terrorist attack against the army. According to the government spokesperson, the terrorist attack against the army a week ago left 54 dead and around 10 injured. On behalf of the state, Wilfred Leandre Hongbeji offered condolences to the families of the deceased soldiers. Psychosis must not spread among the population, declared Hongbeji.
Every child in Benin who dies means all the families in Benin mourn. Even more so, when it involves several of them, it's difficult to talk about it. And given that these children have the courage to give their lives to defend us, we have no reason to give up.
The government spokesperson continued that the military hierarchy is refining new counter-terrorism strategies.
We don't want to lose any more children. And on that note, I can tell you that since this event, the head of state has held multiple meetings with the military high command to assess the situation and strategies with them to see which of the equipment we have ordered has not yet arrived, and in the meantime, whether there are more needs to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of our soldiers.
Last Thursday's attack against soldiers in two towns in the trap point or border area with Niger and Burkina Faso is the deadliest attack against the army since the beginning of armed group incursions in the north of the country.
Augustine Colley with that report. More on security matters. Troops of Operation Lafinia Jama in Nigeria have recorded multiple breakthroughs in ongoing counter-banditry operations across Kaduna and Plateau states. In two separate incidents, troops from the Nigerian army neutralized armed suspects, repelled a militia attack, and made arrests as part of efforts to secure volatile communities in the country's north-central region. WDR's Usman Omar reports.
Troops of Operation Lafi and Jama'a have intensified their operations across Kaduna and Plateau states, leading to the neutralization of 4 suspects and the arrest of 2 others in the past 72 hours. In Kaduna state, troops neutralized 3 suspected armed robbers during a weapon recovery operation. Intelligence sources revealed that they attempted to disarm a soldier and escape. The troops responded swiftly, killing all 3 suspects on the spot. In neighboring Plateau state, troops foiled a militia attack on Tegbe community in Bassa local government area. Following a distress call on Wednesday morning, soldiers engaged the attackers who fled towards Kaduna. 1 suspect was killed during a pursuit in Kauru local government area. 2 others, identified as Sani Adamu and Buhari Mohammed, are arrested. 42 stolen cows and over 20,000 naira were also recovered. However, the attack left 2 civilians dead and 1 wounded. The military says its morale remains high and operations continue across the region to dismantle armed groups and secure local communities. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has in the meantime directed an immediate overhaul of national security strategies, demanding urgent action to end escalating violence in Borno, Benue, Plateau and Kwara states. Recent attacks in the north-central region have claimed no fewer than 250 lives in the last 4 weeks. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Opposition coalition in Côte d'Ivoire denounced Jam's removal from the electoral list. The Constitutional Council in Senegal rejects interpretive amnesty law. Beninese government clarified death toll from its deadliest terrorist attack at 56 soldiers killed. Still ahead, in Liberia, a majority bloc rejects Supreme Court ruling to uphold Speaker Fanati Kofa's authority. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Guinea-Bissau, the president of the Human Rights League, Boubacar Touré, has returned home and is now free to move around. He had been hiding for a week inside the country in an undisclosed location, following a violent raid of his residence by security operatives. He was wanted by the courts for allegedly spreading false information until his appearance before a court in Bissau. The public prosecutor's office indicated that an investigation into his allegations will continue to determine whether they are true or false. Touré had denounced poor patient care at the largest hospital in the capital, Bissau. Here is Beatriz Furtado, a member of Boubacar Touré's defense team, speaking to the press after the hearing.
A audição correu bem e vamos deixar o Ministério Público continuar com a investigação.
So far, the procedure is going well, and we will continue to collaborate with the justice system. We believe that Mr. Boubacar Touré should not be arrested, but rather considered a whistleblower, and what he said about what is happening in the largest hospital in Bissau should be considered as facts that could actually be happening there. Boubacar Touré is a free citizen of Guinea-Bissau and will continue to do his work as a human rights defender within the Guinea-Bissau League for Human Rights. The justice system will continue to investigate these allegations so that we all know the truth.
Beatriz Furtado is a member of the Boubacar Touré's defense team. The Supreme Court of Liberia on Wednesday granted the bill of information filed by embattled Speaker Fanati Kofa, reinforcing his authority amidst ongoing tensions with the legislative body. The court stated that any actions taken by the majority bloc of lawmakers violate established protocols. The case stemmed from a bill of information filed by Speaker Kofa, who sought the court's intervention in ongoing challenges to his leadership. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
In a ruling on Wednesday, the Supreme Court Chief Justice Sialin Yo clarified the actions of the majority bloc as a disregard for constitutional protocols. The court emphasized that neither the Deputy Speaker nor other representatives had the authority to preside over legislative sessions while the elected Speaker was present. Following the ruling, the embattled Speaker Fanati Kofa expressed relief and called for reconciliation among lawmakers to strengthen the country's governance.
The court has ruled, effectively recognizing that our leadership holds the constitutional mandate of the first branch of government, and we welcome that ruling. To our colleagues on the other side, we identify with your just grievances and call on you to join us and end the stalemate at Capitol Hill.
Legal experts suggest that this ruling may set a precedent for future disputes in the country's governance. Some members of the minority bloc view this victory as a reaffirmation of democratic principles.
They understand what the court said, that Fanati Kofa is a presiding officer. Anything you do outside is illegal.
Kofa remains the speaker as long you did not go to sit under him to give him a due process.
But in an official statement, the majority bloc speaker Richard Cohn rejected the Supreme Court's judgment, arguing that it violates the separation of powers. Observers warn that the implications of this ruling could resonate beyond the current political landscape, influencing public sentiment and the stability of the Liberian government in the coming months. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
In Niger, the Minister of Mines announced the launch of a project to create a gold refinery after an agreement with the international company Sovrana Royal Gold Trading. According to the Nigerian authorities, this signature embodies their desire to make the mining sector a level of sovereignty, prosperity, and national dignity. Nigeria has several gold mines, notably in the Agadez region, north near the Algerian border, and in the Teliberi region of the west near the Burkina Faso border. However, only the Samira mine in the Teliberi region is exploited industrially. The other mines being given to artisanal exploitation. According to data from the latest report by the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Niger produced 2,424 tons of gold in 2023.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's join Nadidi Tete in Accra for the press review.
Greetings. Let's start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper front page. At IMF World Bank spring meetings, Africa calls for debt restructuring. Also here, GJA demands reconstitution of NMC board, and government rolls out chip-embedded passports. And finally, government and Goldfields reach agreement on Daman Mines transition. So the Ghanaian Times newspaper front page, newborns to receive hepatitis B vaccination from October. Also here, 13 perish and others injured in gory accident on Accra-Kumasi Highway, also on the front page. Minerals wealth must benefit everyone, that's according to the Vice President, and researchers and policymakers discuss health system strengthening in Africa. Now to the Daily Guide newspaper front page. I didn't lose over Muslim faith. That's according to Baumia. Also here, Tokonu's response to petitions pop up and new MMDCs list out. Also here, Mahama Sachs, Tamale Teaching Hospital CEO, Dr. Abdullah is now acting. And also on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper, cultivate spirit of forgiveness, Christians urged. The National Enquirer, front page, more clamor against Tokonu as 2 new petitions arrive. Also here on the front page of the Enquirer, owners of all excavators to be tracked. That's according to the Defense Minister. The Daily Post newspaper, Wuntimi's accounts frozen by Financial Intelligence Center. Also here of suspended CJ Tokonu, President Mahama has demonstrated consistency and fidelity to the 1992 Constitution. That's according to the Director of Legal Affairs for the NDC, Eduji Tameklo. Also on the front page of the Daily Post newspaper, Gold Board commences licensing of service providers. The Crusading Guide newspaper front page, Baumia endorses Professor Okwe's report. Also here, GGA demands justice over Swale's murder, and Ghana Medical Association condemns dismissal of Tamale Teaching Hospital CEO. That'll be it for the newspaper review segment. Is back to you in the studio.
Very well, thank you to Nadidi Tete for the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This afternoon, we shift our attention to the takeaways from the ECOWAS summit held in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. For Wadr's the 50th anniversary, it's time for regional bloc to make things right. Austin Abe is Wadr's liaison officer.
Just last week, we had a convening in Abuja where we tried to interrogate ECOWAS at 50. In that conversation, which was themed reform or disintegrate, which pathway for the regional bloc. Part of what we were looking at, participants agreed that rather than ECOWAS disintegrating, ECOWAS need to reform. Reform itself, even though from the guest speaker's presentation, ECOWAS was not formed for the kind of things we are now asking the regional bloc to do. But ECOWAS has transformed itself over a period of time. So even with the ECOMOG and others, ECOWAS has transformed beyond the whole idea of the formation in 1975 to now engaging in peace negotiations, political stability and otherwise. In fact, without political stability, there can't be economic prosperity. So when people argue that ECOWAS was formed as an economic region and all of that, but without political stability, there cannot be true economic stability too. So in this, as ECOWAS turns 50, a major thing ECOWAS is to truly refix other arms of government to be useful. As of today, ECOWAS Parliament is not useful. ECOWAS Court is almost not, when I say useful, they are there, but they can't actually make intervention that stops the ECOWAS of state, especially when they take certain action. For instance, we are going to be, when sanctions on Burkina Faso and Co. came up at the heads of state meeting, the parliament was not considered. Nobody went to court to stop them. Even when cases at national level are taken to ECOWAS court, nothing comes from it. We have had cases that ECOWAS court will take a decision. For instance, in Nigeria, where ECOWAS court said that the end tax was wrong and the payment should be made. They did. Nothing happened.
Well, going forward, Ms. Austin, are we expecting to see an ECOWAS of the people?
That's the second reform that the convening in Abuja came up with. Okay. That the need for people to participate heavily in the governance of ECOWAS is very important, because the ECOWAS is supposed to serve the people. Therefore, in as much as you have ECOWAS of government, you need to have ECOWAS of the people. As of this time, it is ECOWAS of the state, which is the government, that really determines the affairs of things. And that until the people start to make intervention in what the state does, it may be a difficult route to go. And that is why reforming ECOWAS is important. This ECOWAS must reform at 50.
Austin Aibe is Wadr's liaison officer. And of course, in sport news, I have my colleague Imo Edit in the studio.
I am
and
taking the sport corner today.
And I'm glad you are. And you have some news for us in basketball as well as in athletics.
Yes, we do have exciting stories for sport. Well, welcome to sport. Let's start with from Nigeria, where the Athletics Federation has confirmed that the country's contingent will compete in the men's 4x100 meters, women's 4x100 meters, and 4x400 meters mixed relay, and a newly introduced 4x100 meters mixed relay, making up 4 of the 6 events at the CS 2025 World Athletics Relays. Now, the World Athletics Relay is scheduled to take place in Guangzhou, China from May 10 to 11. And of course, Abidjan will host the women's Afro basketball for the first time in history. A major first for the country, which will organize a tournament at the Trenchville Sport Palace. The draw carried out in the presence of FIBA Africa officials placed the host country in Group A alongside Angola and Egypt, opponents within reach of the elephants. The opening match scheduled for July 26 will pit Cote d'Ivoire against Egypt, a highly anticipated clash. And in Group B, the group of death features Mali, Cameroon, and South Sudan. Well, Senegal, the reigning runner-up, will play in Group C with Uganda and Guinea. And finally, Nigeria, the defending champion, is in Group D with Mozambique and Rwanda. Now, the winners of each group will go directly to the quarterfinals, while the second and third place teams will play a qualifying playoff. Group of death, 2 group of deaths actually.
Yes, because for me, in addition to, of course, where you have Cameroon and others, Nigeria's group, of course, is also a group of death, because the defending champions, it's a very good, because Rwanda and Mozambique, they are very good sides.
I mean, particularly Rwanda, they've been really living up, not just in basketball, but you've seen them growing in football, athletics, and the rest of them. Well, this is one tournament that we should look forward to.
Of course, I am looking forward to watching the games. But what about Senegal? What do you make of Senegal? Because they were the last time now they were the runners up.
Yes, well, that's why I said we have 2 group of death, Senegal and well, of course, I see them winning that group, Uganda and Guinea, obviously. But if you had Senegal pit with Egypt, Cote d'Ivoire and Angola, then you know it's a shutdown completely.
And I hope, this tournament will be as fun as the AFCON was, because I was in Abidjan and it was really fun.
And I think more hype should be put into this for the tournament, not just football event, but events like basketball and athletics.
But I can tell those going to Cote d'Ivoire, it's a lovely place to be in Abidjan for any sport.
Indeed, definitely I will try and be there.
Thank you very much, Imo Edel, for the sports.
Indeed.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to our technical team for their assistance, of course, led by Mustafa Asek. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X and Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship environment program, Enviroscope, with Abdullahi Hassan. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah Region, and